Good times from the Magic City continue with the man, the myth, the legend, the rock star. It's Campbell McLaren, and if you've seen this face before, he is the face of Combate Global.
Combate Global.
The phenomenon taking over in the mixed martial arts space. How are you, my friend?
Very good, Jim. Thanks for having me. This is a blast. I love this place. I love Miami. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Trust me, the honor is ours. We're at Espanola Cigar Bar in Miami Beach. And here's the funny thing. I have been texting you, reaching out to you to be on our show, and I came here for a business dinner, and I ran into you, and I felt like, oh my God, you're going to think I'm stalking you. What was your thoughts when I ran into you here that night?
I know, it's clear, like the universe was, on our side.
Absolutely.
And I'd just taken off my mask, because you can't smoke a cigar with your mask on. And then you said, it's me, it's Jim, and I go, this is perfecto. Perfecto. Wait, if we're doing a cigar,
we got to smoke, my man.
Okay. So
what do you got there?
All right. So this is a Trinidad VGO, right? I've only had a couple of these. Check this out. You see this wonderful tassel nipple, if you prefer.
Yeah, it looks like a little nipple there.
Isn't that beautiful? And they just spin that at the end. So this is, of course, Castro, who's much less popular in this town than he is 90 miles from here.
Yes.
But he'd created a cigar called the Cohiba that we all know of, and that was his brand of cigar. And because so often the Cuban quality levels were not consistent with cigars, and he wanted one that was going to be perfect. And I think how he achieved that, if they weren't good, someone got shot, which is a strong way of ensuring quality control.
Can't do business that way in this country, right?
Depends on your business. Depends on your
well,
business.
you're in the pain business, so
I mean, someone can get smacked in my business. But then the Cohiba became very common, and they licensed the name here, so you can get a North American version, right? It's not the same, but he thought he needed a new cigar to be more exclusive. Castro, by the way, is a communist, right? So that'd be communist.
A little bit.
That'd be communist. Yet he needed a more exclusive level of cigars. So the people don't all get the good cigars. Anyway, he went from the Cohiba, he created a brand called the Trinidad, which only diplomats could have, and they were given as gifts to their host country from Cuba. And it was like a Pantella, the long, thin, very elegant cigar with this. Can you see that? It's so fabulous
It's like
thing.
whipcord, like you jump off a parachute.
Whipcord. And that was the only size you could get. Great cigar. And they've recently put out the VGO, VIGIO. And as you can see, it's like a kind of a thicker, little shorter Robusto. And I've had two of these before, so.
Now comes the big thing. Snip, and here we go. Now, you're old school. You use matches.
Wow. And this is my favorite restaurant in Paris. Places don't give out matches so much anymore.
I just steal the books, man.
But if you want wooden, every restaurant used to give these out, right? Smith and Walensky, every nice restaurant. All right, you talk while I do this.
All right, so let's start from the beginning, my friend. So you've got
We don't have time.
You've got a Scottish kid who ends up going to Berkeley, who somehow, through one thing or the other, ends up co-creating the Ultimate Fighting Championship. This all started from comedy clubs to MMA. This is quite the story, my friend. How did you get to all this? I mean, were you just born with an idea right out of the gate? Did you walk out of the womb? How did this all start?
Do I really have to talk? I thought I was just going to smoke the cigar on
We
camera.
can smoke and talk. Yeah, we can do that. Well, when you got that kind of a cigar. You gifted me a...
Did you like that?
I love this. This is a Ramon Ayones. I love...
Especially Select.
Oh, I love the band.
I like very powerful cigars.
Yeah.
And the Cohiba is a brilliant Robusto, right? It's a great Robusto, great taste. They triple whatever they do to the leaves to really bring out the taste. But this one's a knockout, I think. Yeah. I think it's a very powerful
What kind of cigars do you like? I mean, you like the powerful cigars. So if I gave you a milder cigar, you'd say no thanks, right out of the gate. What makes the powerful cigars work for Campbell McLaren?
I don't know. I guess I've got whatever it is. I drink a lot of coffee. In my youth, I took a lot of drugs. And, you build up a tolerance, I guess. I don't know. I like the Joya de Monterrey. I like the Monte Cristo No. 2.
I love those.
And I like that one that you have there. And this is very good.
Where did the love for the cigar come for you? It's always, to me, the most fascinating question that I ask people. What started it for you?
That's a good question, and actually is a good segue into the UFC beginning. So in the early 90s, I don't know if it was the first Wall Street movie, but like every young would-be Wall Street guy wanted to smoke cigars. And I knew somebody, and he said, these guys are all smoking rope. They're all smoking shitty cigars. And he gave me the name. And there's email, but not everybody's using email. He gave me the phone number of a cigar store in Switzerland. I don't want to get too specific just because I still order. That's where I got this one. And you could call them. And they would package his cigars. And of course, they removed the bands. So we're still at war with Cuba because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a communist country. Apparently, China. No one's banning Chinese food. What's up with that? You can't get Cuban cigars, but you can have the Chinese food. Don't understand that.
General Tso is everywhere.
General Tso is everywhere. I always wondered, what is up with generals and chicken or I guess Colonel Sanders. He's not a general, but you got Colonel Sanders and General Tso's. What? I never understood that. So I started smoking Cuban cigars but like early in my cigar education. But then, I had a peculiar background. But in some ways, it was perfect to create mixed martial arts. It was a perfect background. I did go to, I went to University of California, Berkeley, and I studied at MIT after that. And I studied filmmaking, documentary filmmaking. And at MIT studied video, which was kind of a new technology back then. This is 300 years ago. And went to New York after college and started a comedy club. And it started a comedy club. And gave a guy named Damon Wayans his start, which was kind of fun. I managed Larry David. I managed Joy Behar. Ran a famous club called Caroline's. Created what for a long time was the longest running show on cable, the Caroline's Comedy Hour. So did a ton of TV and knew a lot of comedians. One of the guys I knew would later show up at the UFC, and his name was Joe Rogan. And that's how I knew Rogan and brought Rogan in. Yes, yeah. So I was working for a German company called Bertelsmann, BMG, which is a music label, and they were losing unbelievable amounts of money doing music concerts on pay-per-view. And no one likes to lose money, but Germans really don't like to lose money. And so, they're walking around the office going, yeah, we've lost another $1 million on the Iron Maiden show. Oh, no, this is Leonard Skinner. He sucked $1 million out of this company, this Leonard. So I don't know if that was a German accent.
That was close. That might have been some Dutch.
I can only do a couple of accents. One is Arnold Schwarzenegger, so that's good. We'll get to that.
We got to hear.
We'll get back to that.
We got to get to him.
That's really good.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah, and Robustos, cigar smokers know you got to go about a third. You get to the middle of the cigar, the Great Crossing, it's sometimes called, and that's where it's happening. But Robustos, designed in the 70s, right? It's when habits are changing. It used to be a gentleman could take 2 hours to smoke a cigar. Who the fuck? Oh, can I curse?
Of course you can.
So who the fuck has 2 hours, right? 2 hours. So the Robusto was made maybe for after lunch or if you were in a low, and you could get to the flavor much more quickly.
Okay. And something tells me that's more your style. Your style is let's go, give me the elevator pitch. What's next? What's next?
He's right. He is very right. So I lost total track. So they call me in and they make me the head of programming for pay-per-view.
Okay.
Because I'd done a lot of comedy, so they're thinking comedy.
Right. Okay. Because the music isn't going anywhere.
Music is done. I did a car show, very much like Fast and Furious. It was called Street Legal. It was Japanese muscle cars, sometimes called rice rockets, really high-tech Mazdas, Toyotas, and the Honda Civic at the time, racing classic American muscle cars.
Which one wins?
Yeah. And it was a great show. If you like cars, it was great because you had these high-tech cars racing, 57 Chevy or 63 Corvette, and it was fun. We did a Sacramento Raceway. It was cheap to do, and it made a little money. So the Germans go, oh, yeah, it's a little money, but it's better than losing a fucking $1 million. Okay, what else you got? So I did Andrew Dice Clay. And Dice had been banned for good reason, by the way. I'm not
Jack and Jill went up the hill.
Yeah, and that was the least of it. Yes. That was the least of it. I mean, it's funny if you think about Andrew Dice Clay, who was hugely popular. And if you were not offended, very funny, and a good guy. And Dice Clay was actually Andy Silverstein, who was a kid that grew up in Brooklyn, and his act, which was kind of an Italian Gumbats kind of guy, that was the guys that beat him up in high school. That was his revenge. Anyway, he's banned on HBO. He's banned everywhere for the stuff he's saying. So I put him on pay-per-view.
Makes a lot of sense, though.
And it was like phenomenal. Right. In terms of comedy, to this day, the only person to beat Dice in pay-per-view numbers is Howard Stern. So the Germans were going, yeah, this kid is a genius. What else do you have? So I didn't have anything else. So I did Dice 2.
When in doubt, do a sequel.
But it worked. Sure. It was a St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And we brought in a number of other young comics. Because Dice goes, I don't have another fucking 45 minutes. It's the same joke. It's the same jokes all over. So, and then in the meantime, I saw a Playboy article called, I think it was The Toughest Man in the World. Playboy is a magazine. Let me explain what a magazine is. It's made of paper and the writing.
You mean I can't try to blow it up there by touching the paper? No. So you were one of the few guys that actually read the articles.
I did read the articles. I looked at the pictures too. Anyway, Jorge Gracie was billed as the world's baddest man. And I read the article. It was like, interesting. And a week later, I was trying to contact him, and I don't know if they called me first or I called them first. It is 28 years ago. But Art Davey, who is Jorge Gracie's business manager, called, and this was the pitch, elevator pitch. Here's his elevator pitch. It was an elevator going down. He goes, Campbell. I can only do the one voice. It's like German, Art Davey. Art's a really good guy and a good, loves cigars too.
You're getting there, right? You're enjoying that way too much. We need an ISO cam of Campbell just enjoying his cigar. It'll be like, and now a little 10 minutes of Zen. 10 seconds of Zen with Cam.
So Art called me and he goes, Campbell. Because he'd research, you knew my name. I don't know if he researched me. There was no internet. You couldn't Google me then. Campbell, HBO turned me down. Oh. Showtime turned me down. Okay. Prime Ticket turned me down. Top Rank turned me down. I see where this is going. You're my last hope.
So you're high on the food chain here.
Yeah, exactly. I go, what the fuck? I'm at the bottom. But then he told me the idea, which was not a great idea. It was called The War of the Worlds, which was H.G. Wells' radio play 70 years ago. I didn't think that was a good title. And guys would fight guys, and the Gracies would beat everybody or something. I don't even remember what the pitch was. But
it was fighting. It was something that...
it was the martial arts.
Yeah.
Right? It was the martial arts. And I was taken by Mortal Kombat. And I go, this may have sounded unusual to him. I go, what are they wearing? Because I was thinking Mortal Kombat, like the sumo's the sumo, and the karate guy's in the karate, you know, because I didn't know anything about the martial arts. And he goes, everyone wears their natural costume or fighting gear. I go,
I'll have a gi, the other guy will have this sumo outfit, the other guy will
it's Mortal Kombat. And I said something like, well, what are the rules? And Art goes, well, you can't really have rules because Kung Fu doesn't have the same rules as sumo. Like, no rules. That's interesting. Okay. So I flew Art and Horion. They were based in Torrance, and they flew them out to New York. And I met them. And Art was like, yeah, you got to buy this. It's going to be a great show. You got to buy this. It's going to be a great show. And like, he never shut the fuck up. And then Horion was like this. Campbell, we will fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. I go, he's fucking cool. This guy's cool.
This is my man.
Oh my God. I went to the dojo. And this is a time when Mel Gibson is training with him, and Lethal Weapon, the chokehold Mel uses is Horion taught him.
That's his move.
Arnold is studying with him. Leo DiCaprio. I mean, it's a Hollywood who's who, right? And they go, we'll introduce you to Arnold. Because I go, we need some showbiz. You know, what are we? So we'll introduce you to Arnold. I'm like, okay.
Not Arnold Rabinowitz.
Not Arnold Rabinowitz. Arnold Schwarzenegger before he's the governor. And he had a restaurant called Schatzi on Main, which is an Austrian restaurant. I don't even know what Austrian food is. I assume it sucks. So, he had a cigar shop called Hollywood Smokes. It's on Main Street. And like this place, like Espanola Cigar and James J. Fox in London, those are the three best places to smoke a cigar in the world. I know places in Madrid too. I know Paris, Tokyo, but I think this place is one of the best places to smoke a cigar.
Being the fat boy that I am, they serve food here. It's the hardest thing to find a good cigar lounge that serves food. And that's what hooked me, let alone the great smokes.
Yeah, let alone. So I meet Arnold, and Arnold says, yeah, this is a good idea. You should do this. I go, will you be in it? He goes, oh, absolutely not. I'm a movie star. He had Kindergarten Cop coming out. He goes, they can't see me in something like this. Are you kidding me?
It reminds me real quick, when Mel Brooks made Blazing Saddles, okay? Gene Wilder's role, Mel Brooks offered it to John Wayne.
Really?
And John Wayne read the script, called Mel Brooks and said, this is the funniest thing, partner, this is the funniest thing I've ever read. But I'm John Wayne. I can't smoke weed. I can't say the N-word. I can't say any of that. Good luck. I'll tell everybody about it. So it sort of figures like that. That was Arnold's point of view.
But Arnold said, you got to fight in an octagon like I did in Conan the Barbarian. And that's why the UFC had an octagon. It was and it sounds cool, octagon. So now doing Combate Global, we fight in La Jaula.
The cage, La Jaula.
That sounds great. And then Arnold said something about Greek columns. If you remember Conan, like, and I go, Greek columns, that's stupid. But you don't say that to Arnold. But the octagon was cool, and that's where that came from. And a gentleman named Jason Cousins. You know, we're gonna run out of memory here if I keep talking in this detail. But so we are 6 weeks out from the show.
Right. The first
November 12th, 1993. 6 weeks out from, and we've got a shape.
Right.
But you got to think about this. Think about this. If I came to you and say, I got this great game, it's called football, and you're going to run with the ball, and you get 6 points, and then 1 point for the extra point. And you would go, well, great. Where do you play it? I go, I guess a lawn or something, right? So when we were doing this, we go, where do we have these fights? We got a shape. Yeah. We got a shape.
We got
That's
an
all we
octagon,
have. And you're going to put men in. So we started testing, and I'm talking to Horion about it. I go, we'll do like walls of plexiglass. It's so easy to shoot through that, right? Everybody can see.
Hockey, kind of.
Kind of like hockey. And Horion goes, what if a man takes another man and smashes his head into the plexiglass? I go, it'd be cool, but that's probably not going to be good. Then we tried like an industrial strength pantyhose material, like a super fine nylon mesh material. It's used for industrial sieves and things like that. But we saw when you push them, they can't breathe. Right. And that's not good. So then Jason Cousins, not a cigar smoker, but a cigarette smoker, was up all night, couldn't figure out what to do. He went out to have a smoke. He lives in Boston. Walked by a construction site and saw vinyl coated chain link fence. And it's exactly what he did. And then we started work. When we were not putting decals on the mat, we were hand painting and using blow dryers to dry it because we were still hand painting at 6 p.m. for a 9 p.m. show.
Yeah, oh my God. Oh my gosh. So the UFC becomes a monster. But before it became a monster, you had your own monster, the late Senator John McCain.
I guess the problem with the UFC, and if you're a UFC fan, look, Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, now it's Ari Emanuel. They did a tremendous job of making it a global sport. You cannot take anything. I'm not claiming credit for where the sport is now. Where I will claim credit is in the creative elements that got it to be in a position where people really thought it was cool.
Right.
And when we first started doing it, I had zero. The Germans go, yeah, this is too crazy even for us. This is like way too violent. I think the Germans only like the violence if there are tanks involved, right? And because I tell them about the head of the company, the Germans come in from Gütersloh. Look that fucker up. And so they fly in, and the head of the American wing of the company, he goes, you're going to take them to lunch and try to get them to drink martinis before you tell them about this. I go,
priming the pump, if you will.
Priming the pump. So I go, gentlemen, this place is known for it. So they're throwing back the martinis. And I tell them the idea, these are the same guys. I wanted to do the Howard Stern's first pay-per-view.
Right.
I told the Germans about it. I go, but Howard's a big star, 28 years. I go, he wants $5 million. They go, for a guy that talks nasty on the radio, we're not giving him $5 million. Maybe this guy is not so smart. So, I tell them about it. But the first show did 80,000 buys. The first one, with almost no marketing. Because I was doing there are no that stuff. And in that universe, if you do the arithmetic, if you do a pound for pound comparison, there were 20 million pay-per-view homes. There are now 100 million. And so if you multiply that 70 by 5, you get a real number, right? And our first, we did 70,000, 250,000, 300,000, 400,000. It took off, and it was, part of its problem was how successful that was, right? Leo DiCaprio was coming. I put the show on, we did 2 episodes of Friends. Where
Jon Favreau wants to be an MMA guy.
He fought Tank Abbott in the octagon. There's a great scene. Tank had no teeth. So right before they're starting the fight, Tank takes his teeth out and puts it on top. And then the next shot is Favreau in a full body cast. It was a great episode. So the UFC was super popular very quickly, and that was part of the problem. It was not boxing. It was not WWF back then. It was not that. It was crazy. It was unregulated, and Senator McCain just hated it. And I'm not saying he was totally wrong, but I mean, I think it was the Washington Post called me a threat to Western civilization. I fucking look like a threat. I mean, see, you got to look at the world then very differently than now. Like, if I really was the threat to Western civilization, things have gone downhill.
Yeah, we were living pretty well, if that was the case.
So, look, the rest is history. I left, but in addition to, along with Arnold, coming up with the Octagon and designing that, Joe Silva, who is a legendary matchmaker for the UFC, I hired him. He was, at the time, he gave out quarters in a video game, the arcades, right? And there's no real emails. There are emails, but Joe Silva was taking yellow legal pads. Yellow legal pads are pieces of paper. Use a pen.
To write, right? He used to write.
And he would take the whole pad and he'd fill in with notes, handwritten notes, and FedEx them to me. They usually started like this: "You're a moron. Here's why you're a moron." And then he would spell out very articulately.
Usually you want to put that stuff in the middle, not at the beginning.
He's not a people person. And so it was like UFC 5. I called him. I go, how do you like to work here? And he goes, I don't fly by plane. I can't travel by plane. I can't go anywhere by plane. I'm scared of planes. I'm not getting on a plane. To this day.
To this day. So he was like the John Madden of mixed martial arts.
The John Madden of mixed martial arts. And then UFC 11, I brought in Rogan. And Rogan had a couple kickboxing professional kickboxing fights. And he was a comedian, and shit went wrong in the UFC all the time. We ran out of fighters. We ran out of time. We ran out of everything. And I would go, Rogan, talk for 20 minutes. And he was good at that.
That's the guy you want. He could do a stand-up, or variations of it. All right, so you've got this wild success on your hands, okay?
Yeah, but no, let me tell to everyone enjoying this podcast, and I hope you're enjoying it because I'm enjoying this cigar and I'm enjoying talking to Jim. The thing I learned from that is if you can help it, don't work for somebody. Because I worked for the Germans. So my wife says I'm like the guy who invented those stick-em notes for 3M. Like that guy invented the fucking stick-em notes. Who doesn't? Every place in the world, there's stick-em notes, post-it notes, right?
Everybody has a post-it.
And you know what that guy got? He got a hearty thanks from 3M. So if you can start your own company, do your own thing, if you're able to do that, that's how you can succeed beyond just a paycheck. Now, not everybody can do that. Not everybody wants to do that. But that's what I learned from the UFC.
It takes balls.
And look, they invited me to leave. Now, so it wasn't like I went, oh, let me go start my own company. The Germans goes, yeah, you need to take like a long walk. Because John McCain, he's very angry at you. Very angry. So I left, and that's, and that was a life lesson for me. And that was my last job. That was my last job. When I leave, 1999, almost 2000.
So you told me this great story about Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, man.
I mean, this is straight up out of a movie. This is stuff that you see, Goodfellas. This is like a Scorsese. I think Scorsese must have heard you tell this story and somehow adapted it to his movies. So tell me about you trying to bring mixed martial arts to the little hamlet of Providence, Rhode Island.
Do we have time?
We've got time.
I want to let me plug my show now, right? Just I'll put in a plug. Combate Global, right? So we focus on Hispanic fighters all over the hemisphere, right? All over LATAM, Mexico, and US. Why? Because look, the UFC is nearly perfect. I mean, it really is. But when I started the UFC, I started it with grapplers. Jiu-jitsu, right? The Gracies in jiu-jitsu, And then the only people that could beat them, I brought in the big Olympic and collegiate wrestlers, Dan Severin, Mark Schultz, Mark Hammer, giant, no neck. And so it was a grappling sport where guys learned to punch and kick. And it's really UFC 7, where Marco Ruas from Brazil, jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai leg kicks. So that's when they start to merge, right? So Combate is the flip of that. My guys and girls are all strikers that are learning how to grapple. So they use the jiu-jitsu primarily defensively. So the ground game's a great part of the game. No doubt, no doubt. But for new fans, it's much easier to understand, boom, right? And my action, we say MMA stands for mucho más acción, right? It's much more action. 80% of our fights end with a finish. It's just, is she coming in the background? Come in the background. It's okay. I don't care.
We're all friends.
Get a shot of her. Just help. This will help our ratings, by the way.
Clearly. Argentina's in the house, everybody.
So that's Combate Global. And it's on Univision, and it's on at midnight, and it's kicking everybody's ass. Not the UFC yet, but all the other MMA groups have a third of our ratings.
But let's run with that. So to me, creating a new MMA brand in this space, Combate Global, used to be Combate Americas, became Combate Global, and then you got Univision involved in this, so you guys are partners in all this. It's got to be...
And Televisa in Mexico. Second to two biggest Spanish networks in the world.
I always thought sort of convincing Latin America, convincing Mexicans to get into the MMA space, because I was, whenever I tried to deal with Mexicans, it was, they were so focused on boxing and boxing, and it almost seemed unseemly to hit a guy when he was down or when the guy was, because I always used to say, in boxing, the fight ends when the opponent hits the mat. In MMA, it's when
a different fight starts.
It's when it begins, right? Yeah. So how hard was that?
I think that, one of the first things I did when I started Combate is I went to see Dana White and then owner Lorenzo Fertitta.
You guys have a good relationship.
Yeah. And I wanted them to know what I was going to do, because they're powerful guys, right? And I thought I think of the UFC as kind of like one of my kids. I mean, I didn't want to hurt it. And I went out and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't think it's going to take away from you, because it's a different audience. Because they were very focused at the time on Cain Velasquez, who essentially was a college wrestler. Right. Big, right? And Mexican background, yeah. But a wrestler. So I knew that wasn't going to work for the audience I was going for. And true to my word, I mean, I probably would have told them it wasn't going to hurt them, even if I thought it was, because I didn't want them to bury me in a shallow grave in the desert. But Nielsen research shows that 91% of Combate fans are not watching the UFC or Bellator. It's a whole new fan base.
It's a whole new fan base.
So it's entirely possible, if you like the UFC, you like Bellator, and I like both, if you watch Combate, you'll see something a little bit different. Más sabor, right? A little different flavor. And it's fun.
Some people like milder cigars. Some people like medium cigars.
Yeah, but that's true. But here's the real truth. Salsa outsells ketchup because everyone likes Spanish flavor. Everyone. It's just better. Just better. And you speak Spanish. Salsa. Rodeo. Lariat. Los Angeles, by the way, is a fucking Spanish word.
Los Angeles, my town.
So, and San Francisco.
All right, so Combate Global, new branding. You went from a Combate Americas to Combate Global. How's the expansion been going? What's next for you guys?
Well, we took a year off. Coincidentally, at the same time, COVID shut everything down. We said, it's a good year to take off. So last year was, we canceled 28 of our 30 events, and that hurt. That hurt. But we've come back very strong. Our ratings are really incredible. They triple Bellator's TV ratings. They are doubling One's ratings. we're doing very well because it's a very exciting product. It's new fighters. Look, if you started a football league, either American football or what the rest of the world calls soccer,
Right.
if you can't get the best players at the moment because they're under contract, right? Bellator's, their strategy really is folks that leave the UFC, whether they're a little older or they fight with Dana White, but whatever the reason is, Bellator picks them up. We go the other way and are scouting extensively in Latin America. So we've got a great scouting program. So I'm bringing in 19-year-old, 20-year-old fighters. They're very new, and that does a couple things. One, my guys fight from the moment they touch gloves. There's no holding back.
Right.
There's no waiting for round two. Like, it's a fight right away because they're young and they're trying to show off. And so that's part of what we're doing. And I think I can say, look, I may have created the sport. You could make an argument that I created the sport. I think in 3 to 5 years, we're going to have the best athletes in the world fighting at combate. Because I see where they are at 20 and 21 and 22. And when they hit 25, 26, they're going to be beasts.
When you get back to being in arenas, which is obviously the end goal for anything, your audience, since it's not UFC necessarily, do you eventually see a crossover there? I mean, when for you, what is success for you for Combate Global? True success.
That's a good question, Jim. I think there's a couple answers to that. From a business point of view, perhaps it's an IPO, or the way Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White sold it to Ari Emanuel. Maybe it's I sell it to somebody so that we can really blow that out and be truly worldwide. That's maybe on the financial side. What I would like for the fan, I would like everybody to, when they turn on the TV and they see combate, they know it's combate right away.
Right.
They go, oh, this is a combate fight. That's what I think we need to do as producers, right? That we're so distinctive, we're so much fun that you know right away what it is.
Well, what I appreciate more than anything else is, we watch a lot of soccer. Even those who don't speak Spanish tend to watch soccer in Spanish just because it's more exciting.
It's certainly more
right?
exciting.
And while you do broadcasts, I mean, I've seen Combate in English and in Spanish, both equally great products. It almost seems like, since Univision and Televisa are the partners here, it almost seems like a Spanish brand where I think even if you don't speak Spanish, just the energy and the excitement translates almost like a soccer match would.
I think that's right. The passion translates.
Yeah.
And Spanish announcers are nothing if not passionate. I mean, and it's fun to watch. Perhaps by the time people are actually watching this, we will have announced our new English partner. And I invite you to watch in English. I invite you to watch in Spanish. Either way, you're really going to be entertained.
Do you sit back, like
When I'm smoking a cigar, I do.
when you do you, I've always said, if you want to be successful, you talk to successful people. That's the only way to really learn it. Have you ever sat back to yourself and said, holy shit, I've created these monsters? Like do you take time to do that, or you do that when you're in your 90s and it's all good, and then because that almost sounds like retirement.
Yeah, I don't like that word. But people say I should write a book because we start to talk about Buddy Cianci. That story is
Providence.
amazing.
We got to get to Providence.
That's amazing. If I write a book, if, and two big publishers have offered me a book deal.
Then comes the movie. Then comes the movie. Who plays you in the movie?
Idris Elba. It's perfecto. Diego Rivera. I don't know. Let's tell the Buddy Cianci story.
Okay, so you are.
But good question. This man is a very good interviewer. I've done a lot of interview shows. He's very good because the questions are insightful, but allow you to go in several directions.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having a conversation.
It's a conversation.
We're having a conversation with some great cigars and a.
I do this show every day.
So you are in Providence, Rhode Island, and you're trying to bring mixed martial arts to this town.
Well, you make it sound like I had a lot of choices. So Senator John McCain is chasing me around the country, chasing the UFC, but he's got his sights on me, yo.
Chasing Campbell.
So when I started the UFC, right, we were using the controversy. There are no rules. I put in a press release. The fight would only be stopped when one man died.
Oh boy.
Now, but I gotta ask. And then the New York Times wrote, Richard Sandomir wrote a great piece on it. Death is cheap, $14.95, which was the price of the pay-per-view. So, but some things people didn't ask me. Why? I said the fight would only be stopped if a man died. How could you continue the fight if he died?
In theory.
In theory. I said banned in 49 states. We'd done it in 7. No one went, yo, that's 56 states. Nobody asked me about that. There are no rules, but by the third one, there actually are. John McCarthy's in as there actually are rules.
There are some rules.
But we did this study and we found that it was pretty early. It was UFC 5. Girls' high school soccer had a much higher percentage of concussions than the UFC did. Because young women can be great athletes, but they don't, there's neck muscles that are very different in men and women. And when guys head the ball, they're able to stabilize the brain and do this. And young women, it's different. And I think they're thinking about stopping headers right?
I mean, with all the NFL talk about concussions and CTE, it's almost like nobody talks about soccer.
So we found girls' high school soccer was arguably more dangerous than the UFC.
I love that.
But
I love selling that.
Marketing, right?
I love selling that.
It's more safe than girls' high school soccer. $14.95. Who's buying that? No one's buying that. So John McCain, distinguished politician.
We'll pour one out to John McCain.
War hero, not just a war hero, in a POW camp. So when he comes out against, I can't go, what a pussy. You can't say that. I'm not John McCain.
Well, some can, but you won't.
I certainly wouldn't. And then, and he's angry. I mean, he's really angry. Like, he's not a little angry. He's a lot angry. And again, going back to 1993, 94, 95, there was no ISIS. There was no global warming. Well, there was. We just didn't know what was happening. There's no COVID. There's no Black Lives Matter. There's a whole bunch of things that just don't exist. So I'm the bad guy, to quote Dice K.
Well, as my mom would say, God rest her soul, it's always got to be somebody's fault.
Always. So so it was mine. And video games were taking, and hip hop lyrics, right? That was the threats to the U.S. So it's amazing. We don't realize how good we had it, right? So McCain is chasing me, and we go to Denver and has no state commission. And then on the third time, the governor goes, we invite you to not come back.
How many invitations to leave have you gotten in your life?
I had that one. And then Charlotte, North Carolina, on our second one, the mayor of Charlotte came with the chief of police, who was one of those giant cracker smokies, right? Like, Bubba is like 6'6" with a 6-foot hat. And I'm standing, and he goes, if you come back, we're going to arrest you. We'll find a charge. That's what he said. We'll find a charge. My attorney, who was like at my side all the time, he turns to me, he goes, if they arrest you, they can't hold you more than 24 hours. I don't want to be in some cracker jail for 24 hours. So I took their invitation to not return to Charlotte. So we're moving around. We're on the go. I go to Puerto Rico thinking, Puerto Rico. I made the mistake of having the event next door to the National Cockfighting Auditorium. Mistake. Anyway, so I hear that Providence, Rhode Island, things can go your way if you know the right people.
Sure.
So I go and I hire another attorney from there. There was a joke. The American Medical Association is against the UFC, but the American Bar Association is for it because there was so much legal work around the UFC.
Billable hours.
Billable hours. What did the guy said to me, "You're an attorney's wet dream, a rich man with an unsolvable problem." Huh? I'm getting less rich. So we go, and I'm told the mayor would be open to the. So I go and I meet the mayor, and I kid you not, the attorney stops to buy soprasata. Not buy it. He goes to his granny's to get homemade spicy sausage, wrapped up in tinfoil. We take it to the mayor.
This is turning into a Scorsese scene right now.
I take it. And it's like Your Honor, it's a spicy sausage. So, oh, very nice. And he goes, so you'd like to come here? Okay. He goes, do you know I have my own sauce?
Like pasta sauce or
Pasta sauce, right? But Cianci sauce. He had his own sauce. He's on the label. You know, like Paul Newman?
sure.
But Paul Newman did it for charity. Buddy was not. He was doing it for his own.
His charity called the Left Pocket.
The left pocket. So he goes, we'd like to entertain your offer to come here. How much sauce do you think you would buy? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know how sauce comes. I know he's expecting more than a jar or two. I don't know.
See, I would have said, I'll take 2 jars, and next thing I know, I would have been minus a shoe.
I said, we'll take 2,000 pallets. It's a lot of sauce. He goes, well, that's good. That's a lot of sauce. Okay. He goes, you come back in a month. So we buy the sauce. I come back in a month. And I'm sitting there, and he goes, I want to introduce you to someone. This is the chief of police. I go, nah.
Here we go.
It's Charlotte all over again. Chief of police comes in and he sits down. And he's the chief of police. It's the chief of police. Right? Like, we get nervous around police officers. This is the chief of police officers. And but he goes, we have a big problem in this town. And I go, big problem. It's probably me. He says, the bad guys all have automatic weapons. Our police officers all have the old-fashioned Smith & Wesson. Is that fair? I go, that's clearly unfair. The bad guys should not have better guns. That's way unfair. I want to go on record. He goes, we would like you to buy our police officers automatic weapons.
Is your lawyer there?
The Rhode Island one is there.
You're looking at him like, hello.
That's all I need. The UFC buying guns. Like, so I demurred. But I'm there, and it's the chief of police, and I'm trying to come to Providence. I'm going to take a smoke here.
So there you are.
I take a moment. And I say, is there something else the police department needs? Like, do you guys work out? Can I buy treadmills? The chief of police goes, yeah, that's actually a good idea. I go, well, okay, 10 treadmills. Okay. I buy 10. Treadmills were, real ones are like $2,000.
Right. It ain't cheap.
So now, somebody goes, okay, you can come Providence. I forget the center where it was. Yeah. But so we're set. By then, John McCain has talked to the governor. Buddy Cianci is a Democrat. The governor is a Republican. And McCain gets a hold of the governor and says, you can't let this happen. But Buddy's ready to go. I bought sauce. I bought, conveyor belts. And the governor passes a law outlawing UFC. I bought the sauce. I bought the other stuff. It just kept going like that.
So everybody, by the way, I guess the moral of the story, if you've got a bottle of sauce, you know why.
That is the moral of the story. So,
Before we let you go, and we appreciate you hanging out with us, the cigars and everything like that. At the end of the day, if you had to describe Campbell McLaren, all right? There he is, one word.
Well, I said it about Spanish announcers. I like to think passion is my directive, right? I loved the UFC. I really did. It was unbelievable. It was a roller coaster and a half and a third. But there's something about Combate that I'm so passionate about because, you know, I'm an immigrant. I'm from a country called Scotland. And I moved here when I was 7. And the immigrant experience in the U.S. is, I think, very similar for wherever you're from, Bolivia or Mexico or Scotland. You come to this country, no one comes to this country because things are going good at home. And then you come here and you look around. This country educated me. I went to the University of California, a great institution. This country educated me. This country gave me opportunity. This country invited me to be creative and to build something. This is an amazing country. That's why people want to come here. That's why people want to come here. And in Combate, what I want to do is I want to show that immigrants, in particular Hispanic immigrants, but it's true for everyone, they're coming to this country and they appreciate the country. 30% of the U.S. military is Hispanic. American Hispanics are deeply patriotic. And let me tell you, there's no conflict in loving your ancestral or your home and loving the new country. You've got a mom and a dad. You love them both. It's not, you know, there's not a conflict. So my passion for Combate is in giving young athletes great opportunity. It's in showing people. We have sworn people into the U.S. Army inside La Jaula.
Yes, I remember that.
We have naturalized citizens at Combate events. I am deeply patriotic. I love this country, and so do the Combate fans, and so do the Combate fighters. And so for me, there's a passion I bring to this. I love fighting. I love the action. I love MMA. And I love America. And I love what I'm doing. And so passion and being enthusiastic. If you're not passionate about what you're trying to do or launch, why should anyone else be passionate about it? If you're not, stay home. And regardless of whether it's charity work that you do or in your business or raising your children, you got to be passionate. And if I may say that about myself, I think I'm a very passionate guy. You got to be passionate about cigars. Everything.
It's been an honor. Thanks for hanging out with us. Combate Global, it's on Univision every Friday.
Every Friday, midnight.
Catch it. It's the best MMA league. Just because
it's the most exciting.
It's different. It's different than anything. I mean, UFC is UFC, so don't look at it like that. But if you want to see action, and again, being a son of an immigrant, I appreciate what you're doing. You're opening up a new audience, you're opening up a new demographic, if you will, to the sport. And it's a phenomenal brand. And again, anything you touch seems to turn into gold, especially these cigars.
So, you know, you said that very well. I will only emphasize one thing. Unless you're a Native American, we're all sons and daughters of immigrants. And that's the truth.
It's Campbell McLaren. Combate Global.
Combate Global!